Chapter 7. That's the last of it. My dad shoves the brass lamp on top of the pile in the bed of the white pickup, and I swing the camper shell closed and turn the knobs on either side of the back window to latch it. My grandpa bought this truck for himself as a retirement present after driving the same battered old Army Jeep for over 20 years. He and my grandma were going to road trip the country in it. He died a week before his retirement. That was a couple of years ago, but I still remember that night like it just happened. My aunt was visiting with her kids. She's my godmother, but I call her my aunt. However, I don't call her kids my cousins. My mom tells us to call all of her friends aunt and uncle. It's super weird. Dozens of so-called aunts and uncles have come in and out of my life. My brother and I were in my room watching a movie with my godmother's two older boys when my dad came in, ordering me to stand up and telling the visitors to leave the room. I suspected I was in trouble for hiding a giant cookie in the linen closet. I had baked cookies for everyone earlier that evening and made an extra large chocolate chip cookie for myself. I had to stash it until everyone went to bed so the other kids wouldn't cry about not getting a giant cookie too. I thought my dad was lying when he told me my grandpa was dead. He wasn't even sick. It took about an hour to drive to Clovis. That's where he lives, my grandpa, or lived. I hugged my grandma and told her I'm sorry even though I didn't know what I was sorry for. It wasn't my fault. This was all a big prank anyway. I sat on the scratchy love seat for hours, almost until the sun came up, while my grandma and mom cried and my dad stood on the back patio by himself, staring at the night sky. Any minute my grandpa was going to burst through the front door, laughing his ass off. And they're all in on it. This is just the kind of thing they'd think would be funny. When my aunt, my dad's sister, not my godmother, announced she wouldn't be going to the funeral, I told my parents I didn't want to go either, but they said I had to. It's what family does. My other grandpa died when I was 10. All I can remember about his funeral is staring at the moles and purple blotches on top of his bald head while we sat in the special section of the funeral parlor reserved for immediate family. I don't see any reason to get all dressed up and sit in a creepy room while people read from the Bible and cry. It doesn't make any sense why you'd want the last memory of someone to be their cold gray corpse on display in front of a gaudy monument to superstition. On the way back to the party, or reception, or whatever they call it, I hid my head behind my dad's suit jacket that was hanging from the little hook on the window. If it were a joke, they would have said something by now. I finally cried, for real, as I pressed my forehead as hard as I could against the glass, hard enough that I thought I might break it. It's the same way I'm pressing my head against the window now, staring out from the white Chevy pickup, only 2,000 miles on the odometer. We wait at the stoplight to turn. The 50-foot Marlboro man looks down on me from above, seeming to give a nod. This will be the last time we see each other. I don't want my dad to see that I'm crying, so I try to avoid sniffling or wiping my eyes. It's all for the best, he'll say. Family needs to stick together, he'll tell me. Be a man and move on with your life. That's what he'll say. My vision blurs through the welling tears as we pass Rattler's, where Kim's sister works. We don't change lanes for our usual turn as the Mount Asia sign, illuminated day and night, disappears to our left. The 76 station with the TVs and the gas pumps. Baja Fresh, the Valencia Mall, the old Speedway damaged beyond repair in the last earthquake. I've looked forward to seeing these landmarks every week, only in reverse, for the last several months. They promised I could visit, but it'll be another 2 years before I get my license, and even then there's no way my parents will let me make the trip by myself. The automatic transmission shifts down and the engine roars as we haul our load of dishes and furniture up the on-ramp, passing the lights of Magic Mountain for the last time. Freeway fades into darkness as we climb the grapevine. My forehead hurts from being pressed against the glass so hard, so long, but I have no desire to move. My parents have decided, they tell me, since I'm doing so well, I'm going to stay at Evergreen for another year instead of going back to regular school. I've caught up on everything from freshman year, and over the summer I can start doing classes for sophomore year. You can't just be hanging around the house playing video games like some loser, my mom says. She was never around for the 14 or 16-hour days I spent working at Mount Asia, helping out wherever it got busy. Let's see her do a full day's work without taking a break to drink wine or gossip on the phone. Roberta's letting me take 12 classes this semester instead of the usual 7, so I'll technically be ahead, but it still doesn't take me more than a day or two to do my homework each week. In all her eloquence, my mom has a point. I should find something to do with all this free time. Corey graduated this year. He's going to business school at night, and during the day working at the new Taco Bell Express they're building inside the Course Gold gas station. The one my mom always says she's going to at night. They have a lot of high school kids for the night shift, he tells me, but nobody who will work the day shift for minimum wage. He'll even give me a ride on the days we work together. Inside, when Corey takes me to meet the boss, it doesn't look anything like a Taco Bell. Lumber and tools are piled everywhere. In the corner are two towering stainless steel cabinets wrapped in plastic and flanked on either side by cardboard boxes stacked to the ceiling. "Hey, nice to meet you," Mike says, shaking my hand as he rushes from the office to the opposite side of the building to shout at the contractors. His palm is nearly as sweaty as his forehead. "When can you start?" "Immediately," my rehearsed reply. He takes my response at face value and tells Corey and I to unpack the boxes and wash everything in the 3-bay metal sink that he's prepared with hot water on the left and a sanitizing bath on the right. The metal sink is empty and has a sprayer nozzle hanging above it. For the rest of the afternoon, we scrub brand new plastic trays and bins made of stainless steel. Everything here is made of the stuff except for the serving trays. It's like someone crushed a DeLorean and repurposed it to house beans and rice. I can't say this is anywhere near as fun as working at a roller rink arcade, but at least I have a friend to keep me company. When you don't have a car, you spend a lot of time waiting. Since my dad works in Oakhurst now, I ride up with him on Tuesdays and he drops me off at school. I still have my usual 1-hour appointment with Roberta at 10, but the rest of the day I just hang out in the portable classroom trailer that serves as the entire school and do homework. My ride home will be when my dad gets off work 10 hours later. There are about 30 students at this school. Never at the same time. We each have our hour appointment and that's it. But since I'm hanging around more, Roberta allows me to write up a monthly school paper, just a couple of pages for journalism credit. On the days I work, he drops me off outside the gas station at 7:30 and I hang out in the parking lot until my shift starts at 10, smoking cigarettes in the drive-thru where I can't be seen from the road. It's a lot easier to get cigarettes now. Last night, I found a box of what I thought were Swisher Sweets, but were actually Marlboro Lights in my mom's leather jacket that she left in the back of her car, so I swiped a couple of those. I'll have to make them last until Corey gets here in a couple hours. Sometimes Mike will put me to work early, having me scrub the toilets or pressure wash the concrete around the gas pumps. It sucks, but it's better than sitting around doing nothing. I managed to get a work permit for 24 hours per week instead of the usual 16 allowed for students my age. Now, if only Mike would schedule me for 3 8-hour days instead of 5 half shifts. He seems to be okay doing it for the older people who work here, but none of the teenagers. We all have to work 4-hour shifts. This way he doesn't have to give us a lunch break or insurance. About half of the people who work here, now that we're open for business, I know from school. Some of them, like Dustin, I've known since we were little kids. This one guy, John, he's a senior and lives down the street from Corey, has decided he's our boss and likes to spend his time giving the rest of us cleaning tasks while he works the counter or drive-through headset. He's cool though. We've made up porn names for everyone in case we ever need to make an adult film at Taco Bell. John Bell Grande, Travis Big Beef, Susan Sour Cream, Double Decker Denise. Everyone got one. Even Lois, the 80-year-old woman who works the register in the morning. My mom stops by several times per day to get gas or for a coffee, she always says, or she's on her way to Oakhurst to see my dad. A few times I've seen her parked up on the hill across the street by the post office. She can see the back parking lot of Taco Bell from there, where we all go to smoke on our breaks. There's a window in the kitchen that looks out on the highway. I watch from behind its bars when my mom leaves to make sure she's actually gone before sneaking out the back and squatting behind the dumpster for a smoke. If there aren't any customers, I can hide in the drive-thru, but when someone drives up, I have to evacuate into the area where she can see. "That's pretty weird, dude," Corey tells me as we're scooping ground meat product into crunchy corn shells one day. "Yeah, man, welcome to my life." "Where's she always going?" "No idea. She says she's getting gas." "Yeah, but when she leaves, she goes the opposite way from your house." "Well, sometimes she goes up to the post office to spy on me." "I thought those Geos were supposed to get good gas mileage." He's seen her car up on the hill a couple of times too, but we decide it's not every day that she goes to the post office when she leaves. The next time Corey has a day off, he waits in his car in the parking lot for her to show up. As usual, she arrives a couple hours into my shift. I keep my head down, trying not to acknowledge her. Whenever she comes over here, she'll say something to try to embarrass me in front of my coworkers. I'm working the line, so I'm able to keep my back turned, but I hear her shrill voice at the register in the front of the mini-mart, shouting at the old man behind the counter. He's old, not deaf. When I see the blue two-door pass by on the highway, I tell John that I'm taking my break and run outside where Corey already has his car started. A Halloween orange muscle car with black racing stripes is hard to hide, so we keep a few cars between us as we follow my mom north on the 2-lane road. She disappears behind the rocky outcroppings at each bend, and I keep a vigilant eye on the side roads to make sure she doesn't turn off somewhere. Luckily for us in our amateur sleuthing, she only travels about 2 miles before pulling into the weather-beaten roadside motel that's been converted into cheap apartments. This is where Jim lives. We pass by and continue up the highway as she swerves into the parking spot next to his old blue beater. At the next road, Corey exits the highway and turns around, heading south. Passing by a second time, I can see the door to the crummy motel room apartment open and my mom disappear inside. "You want to stop and say something?" "Nah, I only have 10 minutes for my break."